Hi everybody, I am Dan York, and again we have another look at the November 4th ballot and ballot proposals that Garden City residents will be facing. With me right now is Derek Fisher, the principal of Garden City High School. Welcome to our program.
Thanks, Dan. Glad to be here.
We want to talk about the one ballot proposal that affects the Garden City Public Schools. On a previous program, we talked about the 6 charter amendments that the City of Garden City faces. We've had our Meet the Candidates program. This is an attempt to cover the other issue of local interest, if you will, which is a ballot proposal put together by the Garden City Public Schools.
Correct. And this ballot proposal is a renewal.
Okay. All right, let me read verbatim what the ballot proposal is, and then we'll discuss it in detail. It will appear on your ballot as Local School District Millage Renewal Proposal, Building and Site Sinking Fund. And it reads, shall the currently authorized millage rate of 2 mills, which is $2, on each $1,000 of taxable valuation, which may be assessed against all property in Garden City Public Schools, Wayne County, Michigan, be renewed for a period of 5 years, 2016 to 2020 inclusive, to continue to provide for a sinking fund for the construction or repair of school buildings and all other purposes authorized by law. The estimate of the revenue the school district will collect if the millage is approved and levied in 2016 is approximately $974,101. And parenthetically, this is a renewal of millage which will expire with the 2015 tax levy. So historically, in the area, these are always referred to as sinking funds.
Correct.
All right, and let's explain to the folks, as you said, this is a renewal of a ballot proposal that was approved 4 or 5 years ago.
Correct.
And this is for big ticket, non-operational items, non-general fund items, correct?
Yeah, it is big ticket items, and currently there'd be items that we would not be able to make corrections or improvements to through our general fund currently with the financial status of the district.
And there is a protection built into this also that only allows this to go to these sort of these big ticket items, these capital improvement projects.
Absolutely. The money is going to be safeguarded, and it'll be earmarked specifically for these building-specific improvements, these infrastructure improvements that are necessary.
Now, one of the reasons that Derek Fisher is here is that the high school, in the previous 5-year span, probably benefited more than any of the other buildings. And let's clarify up front, all of the elementary schools were rebuilt during the 2000s, the mid-2000s.
Correct. Starting in approximately 2004, there was rehabs of the elementary buildings.
Okay. So the needs are much greater at the high school and at the middle school.
Absolutely. You know, the high school does house the biggest student population. In regards to building usage, we get significant use out of the high school daily with, you know, extracurricular activities, including athletics and the use of O'Leary. Community gets in there and uses it quite a bit too. Mom-to-mom sales, PTSA events, that type of thing.
O'Leary events.
O'Leary events, absolutely.
Okay. So let's talk about some of the things that were done in the previous 4 or 5 year period with that sinking fund millage.
Sure. Kind of looking at the 2010 facility needs, there was 3 main areas that were identified where the high school needed improvement. I'm sure there are alumni out there who can remember the condition of the building and some of the things that would happen. One of the thing that was kind of most in need, or the area of triage that needed the most attention, was our roof. The current millage that expires here very soon facilitated us getting 90% of our roof redone. So I like to say we're high and dry now.
Okay.
We don't have those leaks and pools of water gathering upstairs like we once did. Very much appreciate that. It's improved the instructional climate quite a bit, as I'm sure you can imagine. One of the other areas where we've made improvements is all the way around, exterior windows have been removed and replaced. So we went to a high efficiency window, a dual pane window, a little bit of tint to it, so it'll also help with energy cost. And then the third area of improvement on this current millage was removal and replacement of the boilers. The boilers that were recently removed went back to 1974.
Okay.
So we got our money's worth out of them, but it was time to look at a high efficiency solution that would kind of provide savings on utility cost over the long term. And currently with what is being installed and will be finished installed over the next week or so, that will provide those long-term utility cost savings.
Now, when we're addressing the high school specifically, our elementary schools can almost be considered brand new because they were all redone in the mid-2000s. The junior high opened in about 1964-ish. The high school that we currently have, which goes back now to 1950?
1950, yes.
So this was built in the late 40s.
Absolutely. Yeah, the building opened in 1950. The cornerstone is still there and visible off of the corner of O'Leary there. Does go back to 1950. You know, we're fortunate because that 1950 sort of institutional construction, it stood the test of time. It's a sound building with sound foundation. However, looking at those things that are high usage, you know, the roof is going to be out there. It's going to be open to the elements, the Michigan winters, the freeze and thaw cycle with deterioration. That needed to be replaced. Looking at the boilers, especially with the past couple of winters we've had in the low temperatures. Those boilers that go back to 1974 roughly, always in use, always required maintenance. Those needed to go. And then also too, as any homeowner will know, some of your best savings as far as heating and cooling goes, I mean, it involves your windows. Mm-hmm. The windows that were recently removed, I believe, were from 1990.
Right.
And they had a lot of mileage on them, and they were not a high efficiency design like we currently installed.
And that's a good example or a good comparison because that high efficiency design is something that's newer than the early 90s.
Absolutely. There's been a lot of improvements, you know, in kind of looking at ways that the district can save money and continue to save public money. It really comes down to, you know, we need to replace these items. Let's replace them with a quality product that's going to provide utility cost savings.
Okay. So what are some of the intended uses should this millage pass on November 4th?
Should the millage pass on November 4th, we are looking at completing the roof. We've got about 10% of the high school roof to complete. Parents who come into the high school or middle school, I'm sure they know during drop-off, they've noted the condition of the parking lots in both of those buildings. Should this millage pass, both of those parking lots will be replaced, both at the high school and the middle school.
Okay.
They will be resurfaced.
All right.
Looking at things specific to the elementaries and some of the other buildings, we will replace boilers at the middle school, at Cambridge, at Lathers Elementary, and also at the Farmington 5-6 campus.
Okay.
Those boilers will all be replaced.
All right. And then also we've looked at possibly replacing the track at the high school if this millage were to pass?
Exactly. The track at the high school would be resurfaced. It'd be brought up to MHSAA standards for competition. And then we'd also look at replacing the middle school gymnasium lighting with a high efficiency cost savings lighting.
Okay. All right. So the total of this millage over a 5-year period would be just around $4.8 million.
$4.8 million, which sounds like a lot of money. If you're a homeowner and your property value is assessed at around $100,000, it's going to cost you $75 a year.
Okay, and again to stress, this is a renewal, so this is $75 that residents or approximately residents are paying now already.
That is correct. It is a renewal that it won't add to their taxes. It will be a continuation.
Okay. Obviously, it is a difficult time for schools in general. Funding of schools has become a controversial subject, not just now, but it goes back
historically,
quite
absolutely.
some time. And again, I guess to stress that this is one of the mechanisms that school districts have to make these improvements that, the majority of the money that is brought into the Garden City schools is for the operations of the schools and the educational experience. Absolutely. So it doesn't really leave much in the area of these sort of improvements.
Yeah, it could be a challenge with the current funding structure for schools to get that extra money, especially for these capital improvements that are necessary over time. We haven't built a new high school. We're improving what we currently have. And speaking specifically to the educational environment, these improvements have improved the educational environment. It's a nice change. It's a more comfortable climate. And I really want to thank the voters for their support of this millage in the past, because it's a reinvestment in our schools and in our children, and it's very much appreciated by all of our staff.
And the environment with open enrollment has become very competitive for school districts, and
Absolutely.
I imagine especially at a high school level.
Yes. Parents are always shopping for a next best thing for their student. And
As they should.
As they should. And education is very competitive. We don't want to put a dollar sign on a student's forehead. But we do want to appeal to that schools of choice parent who may be considering another local school. And when they're looking at the condition and the environment of the school, that is a selling factor.
And even to residents who have the option of taking their children to another district.
Absolutely. And I think the main thing is, this is a reinvestment in our own community. Cosmetics do count. But what we're looking at as far as these improvements, it goes beyond cosmetics because it is a legitimate need. There are some safety things to consider when looking at the quality of the current parking lots at the high school and the middle school. We want to get those improved. And also, too, just really showcasing what we have as a community. The high school really stands out. It gets a lot of usage, and we want a good environment for our kids.
You mentioned before that it's a good construction of a building, and prior to doing this interview, you mentioned that there was an audit done from the state level,
absolutely,
verifying that this is a solid structure.
Yeah, the state was recently out mid-September. They came through, looked at the facilities. They noted our improvements that had already been made to the roof, and we were in the middle of sort of the window install at that time. The comment I got from the lady conducting the audit from the state was, she's in a lot of buildings. She sees a lot of buildings annually. And, to use real estate terms, she said, our building has good bones. It's a very solid structure. She said, looking at, your operation here, you've got a great environment, and however you can continue these improvements, that was her recommendation.
Okay. Very good. Well, again, we want to stress that this is intended to be informational.
Absolutely.
This is not an intention, or the intention here is not to sway someone to vote one way or the other. This is an attempt to present information that is available, hopefully objective information that's available, and let people make up their own minds.
Absolutely. It's important for the public to know, how the money is being spent, where the money is going to make these improvements. And these are significant improvements, and these improvements are very much appreciated. Not everybody has students at the high school right now. We do have a lot of alumni residing within the community. We've got a lot of former parents and even grandparents who have had kids go through the schools. And I feel it's very important as principal of the high school that they know how this money was spent, because it was spent in good faith and for the best possible cause, and that's to give a great environment to our students each and every day.
All right. Well, very good. Well, I want to thank you for taking time out to be with us.
Thank you, Dan.
Or again, the ballot can be found on the city's website, www.gardencitymI.org. That's www.gardencitymI.org. And again, along with this interview, an interview conducted with Allison Bettis that talks about the charter amendments and, of course, our Meet the Candidates programming, all available on GCTV, all available on YouTube. Go to our website, which is www.gardencitymI.org/GCTV for the links to all of that information. Again, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And make sure, most importantly, November 4th, that you get out and vote. Thanks very much. Good night.